meeting to order for the monthly meeting, April 20th, 2023. The first item is approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions or suggested changes? If there are none, I have a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, guests, and we have Jim McBrayer from, or Jeff, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. From Netarts, and he and I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add other than what was said at the last part of the meeting. But I'll start it out by saying we had discussed Jeff joining the board. You know, doesn't make much sense to approve it for just a month or so. But what I suggested was that maybe he could be a write-in candidate, and it probably wouldn't take very many votes to be a person that fills the position come the 1st of July.
I'm very close to the local newspaper, and I suspect they might say something in that about it, suggesting.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
So I'm trying to get the word out in Netarts.
You know, we're already just less than 2.5 months from the end of the fiscal year, so that seemed like sort of an easier way to do it than any other way. And of course, we can't really do it because we still have the board member who's leaving. Elizabeth is on the board, so we can't approve Jeff for the board with.
There's no vacancy yet.
Excuse me?
There's no vacancy yet.
There's no vacancy yet.
But is my understanding that it only takes one vote for a write-in?
I'll talk to my wife, Jim.
I bet we can muster a few more than that.
Yeah. But that would be really great, because I think it helped maintain what I think the board would like to see is a balance, that we have at least 2 of the board members from whichever community, either Oceanside or Netarts. It could be 3 from Netarts and 2 from Oceanside. So, but this would, with Jim on the running for election, and if Jeff runs, we'd have our 2 folks from Netarts.
Jim's on the ballot?
Yeah.
Did you
Jim's
get
on the
filed?
ballot.
Okay,
Or
Yes, I did,
good for you.
Yes.
and I've been campaigning heavily.
You've got my vote.
Oh, we do have to announce this as being recorded.
Oh, yes.
It
I'm
just popped
sorry.
up a reminder I needed to announce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If there's nothing else, public comments.
No public except you, so.
Okay. Board questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, the next item is review of the minutes of March 16, 2023, regular board meeting minutes. May I have a motion to accept?
Oh, do we need a motion before we review it? Okay, I'll move to.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. Open for discussion.
On the section on board questions and comments, that, which was stuff I was bringing up.
Okay, you're backing up? That's all right.
No, he's to
No,
point
he's on-
5
he's on number
I
5.
see. Okay,
of the minutes.
okay.
Dreyfus then stated that he'd read the emergency preparedness plan, and at the end it talked about, I think we need the word how in the event of a tsunami we would be rendered inoperable.
Yeah.
And then I would add a sentence that said Dreyfus asked if it was possible to do any further tsunami disaster planning, and then after a lengthy discussion, blah, blah, blah. I just thought that there needed to be that extra line added.
So Dreyfus asked.
Dreyfus asked if it was possible to do any further tsunami disaster planning.
just had a one-word question on page 3, line 2. It says to treat the sewer. Is that to treat sewerage?
Yeah.
Yeah, to treat the sewage. Either one's acceptable with me. I mean, it just depends on how you want it to.
All right, we'll leave it as is. And page 4, the last line on the budget committee, Quaker stated that the budget committee members will be Kent Brown. How about it, we add in an after committee, community members?
Yeah.
I had a question about the first paragraph under operations summary. This is a paragraph that we see with some regularity, but I read it and I was a little confused. Particularly the sentence that says Happy Camp and Ocean Highland pump stations are the last of the functioning, but have obsolete so the last of the functioning what? The last of the functioning ones from 2000?
The last of the functioning control panels is what it's supposed to say.
Okay.
So if you read the sentence just
Yeah,
above it, the
so
Netarts
the
pump
Netarts pump
station,
station
and-
is
yeah.
okay, the
So
last
Happy
of-
Camp and Ocean Highlands pump stations are the last of the functioning control panels. Original.
Original. So I
Yeah.
think if it just says the last of the functioning original control panels,
Yeah,
or
original.
2005.
Yes. Mhm.
Maybe if it's the 2005 control panels, or,
Well, what if we eliminate, but now have, if we just say they are the last of the functioning obsolete multi-rod control
Oh, yeah.
panels?
yeah.
Multi-trode.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Multi-trode.
delete the comma and, but the no.
I'll have to make the correction in the district report.
Okay,
Yeah, that's where that'll have to follow through to make the
Yeah.
correction.
okay,
So just those 3 words?
Yeah.
Eliminate?
that clarifies the meaning for me.
So-
I'm no longer
Hang on,
confused.
hang on. So, the 3 words will be original control panels, because I think Netarts explains it above.
Yeah, okay,
Is that fine?
that would work for me too.
What, or,
Or the other suggestion that John had was.
Well, because the Netarts pump station had its control panel updated in June of 2021.
Right,
Happy Camp and Oceanside pump stations are the last of the functioning original control panels. Or instead of original, we could just put the multi-trode control panels.
yeah, or you could even say last of the functioning, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Why don't we just do what John said, multi-trode, that way
Yeah, okay.
it's clear, I can explain it later.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
okay.
So
Right.
leave out original, just put multi-trode, and
Yeah.
I'll show you how to spell it later.
It's there.
Well, I think that we need to make a note that the board would like that on the district report changed.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
it
think
comes up in this-
necessarily, you don't change it on here
Yeah,
because,
it comes up in the district report this
Yeah.
time as well.
yes,
So,
yeah,
same language.
Change your boilerplate.
yeah, change
Yeah.
my boilerplate.
And I'm sorry I didn't read it more closely before and get confused before, but.
Neither did we.
Well, John and I have made some some updates to that, and sometimes you
Miss things.
miss things, and spell check's not as great as it sounds.
Okay, any other changes? All in favor of accepting the the board report with the changes discussed, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Financial statements for review of all funds. A motion to accept the financial statements,
So moved.
I'll second.
second, Jeff, if you happen on to page 3, that shows you those SDC billings for
So this is where I came up with 16 when I was counting the ones.
for the current fiscal year,
Right.
22,
1, 2, 3,
23.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
And it also, on the left-hand side, gives you an idea over the years, how many have been added.
Which is why the 7 seemed a little low, given that we've been 20 and 20 and we still have 3 months left. But there, you're also right that there are some years where there was 1 and none, so.
And I didn't really say it before, but after, we put together this, let me just pull it for a second. The bonds, the scary thing to me is, we're 10 years into the plan, and I don't know, these bonds go out for another, some of them for 15 years. And so, you know, how long does our equipment last? Is it 20 years, probably? I mean, what Dan has sort of told me, the service life of this 24/7 operation, you gotta figure about 20 years.
The design service life of the entire system is 20 years.
Yeah,
But we'll have equipment that has a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year lifespan.
so it's sort of.
In that.
It's sort of a scary thing to think in 2030, which I don't imagine, well, I may be here, I may not, but, you know, we're putting a burden,
We'll still be paying for stuff that.
kicking the can down the road, paying for stuff that was basically put in 10 years ago. So, I mean, it's just something to keep in mind,
Yeah.
that, you know, just a concern. Anyway, we didn't have much visibility over what was actually going on with the bonds. That's why I wanted to have that available.
So to answer your question, when you looked at the other ones for the SDC charges, if you go to page 4, and that has to do with the system development charge on page 4, you'll see that we budgeted system development charge for $100,000 to be received, and we received $155,931. So what we did was we upped that a little bit, assuming that we're gonna receive that plus a couple more. That's how we come up with those, with that estimate.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
okay, so we don't so much go back. I mean, we look at history, and then we look at what the previous year did, because that's more reflective of what's actually going on at, you know, closer.
Okay.
And remember, their estimates,
Right.
we're not trying to fluff it up. I mean, it would be easy to write 200,000 down and just walk away, but we like to try to keep it as accurate as possible.
Well, and as you said before, it's better to be underestimating this one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So, all in favor of accepting the financial statements as written, say aye.
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 It's unanimous. Board audit, accounts payable, bank reconciliation for review.
The Center Logic computer services bill, 10,000, is that, what's that? Is that new laptops, or is that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All of them?
That's-
Well, the first 5,
Oh, because those are more expensive ones.
right. And then the next one will be right around 9.
The board's computers are not on there.
No, no, this is what we've actually just, what we have paid out.
Jeff, and what that's about, the laptops that the board has, we've been advised by our attorney that we should maintain our records on a laptop that's owned by the district rather than on our personal computers. In the event of litigation or something, and they say, well, you got stuff on your personal computer, I want your computer because I wanna go through it. So it preserves, keeps things cleaner by doing that.
And the current computers have this extra security function where if a person tries to steal anything on it, they'll have to wait a half hour for it to open up.
You can tell Jerry's annoyed with his computer.
So there's a
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a delay, so that's why we're getting new laptops, because they're just awful.
But as Jerry mentioned, actually, there is quite a bit of security because this is an essential service that's being provided. And with this day and age and those that are hackers and break into cyber-wise, it's something that has to be continually monitored and looked at.
And it has to do with public records request also, to keep your personal stuff out of it.
Okay, going through this, any particular questions?
I asked mine.
And this ended as of the end of March. This does not have anything that's been paid through April. You'll see that in the next board meeting for the end of April.
Okay. District report.
So, March, we had no violations. Oh, I thought you raised your hand. You can see the treatment plants are running well within its permit limits. We have no active collection work scheduled. We did do the wet well cleaning, but that's usually under pump station maintenance, not under collections. Capes 1 pump station has a leak in the discharge piping for pump 2. I'm trying to figure out how I could put the video on to this Teams meeting, and so far I keep running into a roadblock. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, so I'm gonna get some IT help on that. But I do have it. I could send it to the board members on email if you wanna look at it. You'll hear and see when the pump starts, and you'll see the water shooting out of the pipes. So that piping is original from 1993. And it's just reached the end of its useful life, so that'll be another one of those things that we're gonna have to get engineers in and to get upgrades done at that Capes 1 pump station.
That was the same last month, right?
That was the same as
Yeah,
last
okay.
month, yeah.
So-
Well, we have some new people here, so I just wanted to hit on it real quick.
Yeah, and we haven't yet figured out what the
No,
preferred path to fixing that is.
not yet. We've had the engineers kind of busy on some other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's for pump 2. Pump 1 is still fine. It's not leaking enough where it's not usable. It's just a little bit squirting out, which we don't wanna get in there and mess with it, cause if it's rust, we don't wanna make the holes any bigger.
Get a lot bigger,
Yeah, and then we don't
Shake
wanna
it a
have
little
it.
bit.
Yeah. So, it's best to leave it alone right now till we can get it inspected. So, and that pump station well, just so you know, is 25 feet deep, so it goes down there a ways. Oceanside and Capes 2 pump station control panels, UPSs, that was on there last month, and it's on there this month. We just found out they're gonna be here, Thursday, the 27th, to install both those new units. And what that does is, that's our battery backup. If the power goes out, it keeps our control panel and SCADA operational until the generator kicks in. Right now, it doesn't do that because the batteries are bad. We cleaned the grease from the Netarts pump station.
Impressive amount of grease.
Yeah, so I usually just put the gallons down, but I think that it's more understandable if I put the tonnage down, just so that you know, grease does weigh less than water, but not that much.
Yeah.
So it was right about 10 tons of grease we hauled out of every pump, between them all. Most of it came out of Oceanside pump station and the Netarts pump stations where a majority of that grease came from.
Is that schooner?
Believe it or not, a lot of it is just from households.
Okay.
If you run the cameras through, not that the schooner does not contribute a fair share, both the restaurant taverns do. But a majority of that actually comes from homeowners. We can trace grease all the way back up to laterals coming out of houses.
There's hundreds of houses in one restaurant.
Right. So, but we see more of that coming out of usually vacation rentals. That seems to be where we see a lot of more grease buildup in sewer lines than somebody that's a full-time resident.
Not your house is okay to
Yeah.
pour oil down the drain.
Yeah, bacon grease.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the cost, and I attached the invoice so you could see, it's transportation costs. It has to go to, Herd Farms in Roseburg. It's the only one left that takes, grease from, sewer plants. We used to haul it to Portland, to Pacific Power Back, and they no longer accept it. They'll accept grit, but not the grease. So now instead of doing one cleaning, we have to do two. One, we'll get the grease out, and then the second one, we'll go in and we'll clean all the built up grit and stuff in the bottom. As you can imagine, we're real close to sand, and we get sand intrusion a lot. And we have to clean that out for maintenance because the sand eats up our impellers on the pumps. Each impeller is about $4,000, not even counting the volute it chews up, so.
And do you know what happens to the grease?
So Herd Farms is actually approved by DEQ to process the grease. The actual process they use, I have no idea how they do that.
Or what do they process it into?
They have it out into like drying beds and lagoons, or let's call them, they look like lagoons, but they're drying beds. So they can treat it, and I don't know if they chemically treat it, but it's treated until it can be hauled to a landfill.
Until it turns into a solid of some sort.
Until it turns into a solid, yes. Because they just go in there with bulldozers and backhoes and pull it out.
It's not like they're turning it into diesel fuel or biodiesel
No.
or anything like that.
You
'cause I've
probably
heard-
don't wanna ask, cause probably your bar of soap started as grease.
Well, I do wanna know, but.
Well, most people don't, they usually just, they see grease as fat from meat,
Yeah,
bacon grease,
yeah.
but powdered laundry soap is one of the worst. That creates what they call fog, fats, oil, and grease in it. One of the worst contributors, if you have a bunch of the little coffee stands, where you go in like Starbucks or Human Bean or stuff like that, they're a larger producer of fog, grease, than say, most restaurants are.
Are they pouring coffee grounds down there?
There is a lot of oil, as you probably know, in coffee, yeah, and then it solidifies in the pipes. It's a nightmare for wastewater treatment systems to deal with that fog.
Think about that when you're drinking your morning coffee.
You gotta finish it.
Still gonna end up in the sewer.
We need more Elizabeth out. The treatment plant, basin one failure, and I made a note, that you wanted to do a resolution, but, so basin one failure, the automatic air valve, there's 3 basins, 3 valves, all 3 are obsolete. We're replacing all 3 and upgrading them because as the beginning of 2024, there will be no more parts available at all to even repair them. What we're finding now, partway through 2023, there are no parts available to repair them. If we do, we have to order them out of Germany. They're telling us, and they won't even guarantee 6 months, and they're rather expensive, so once you get them here, your equipment is still obsolete and won't be supported by the beginning of 2024 at all. So it's better to replace them before they fail than it is, you know. And that's what I've told the board. I know I've hammered it before, obsolete. And that's a lot of what we find, because technology changes so fast, especially in the last 5 years, that everything is becoming obsolete.
That's why John's comment about the bonds is so relevant.
Yeah. So, and that's why it's relevant that we keep money in our capital resource and our budget, so we don't, because this stuff's not cheap. It's not cheap to fix. So, I went ahead and ordered them. Our delivery date for them is somewhere mid-August, August 8th or 10th or something like that, is the estimated ship date. Not receive date, estimated ship date. So I went ahead and ordered them. I have a $10,000 limit. Unless it's an emergency, I considered this an emergency because we had to get it. So John wanted the board to authorize it through resolution, but we went back and looked, and you usually just authorize it through you don't have to write a resolution.
Okay.
So you can authorize it. I mean, it's kind of backwards. I already did it, so, but that's the reason why.
We can authorize your emergency.
Yeah. So,
So, yeah, if we just can
Ratify.
approve it, can I have a motion to approve this purchase?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Unanimously. So,
okay. So the Wedeco UV system, I said we've been having problems with, we were told by the engineers for Wedeco that it was our surge protection system. We just had it tested, and it's not our surge protection system. It is working properly. We think we figured out what it is. When the lamps get so old, so many hours on them, it starts to trip that out. It shows that there is a surge problem, and it's not. It's the weak lamps. So all of our lamps have been changed out, and we're no longer having that issue. And we ran a test on it Tuesday. I think we simulated the generator running on power outage 3 or 4 times that day, and it didn't reoccur.
So you don't have to replace the surge protectors.
No. But this is also why I last month had you approve buying all new 72 lamps. Right now, we have no spare lamps. We have nothing. We have 2 lamps that are out. That's because it won't work off our ballast guards, the old lamps that we have. So this is why we have to keep that many of the replacement lamps on site at all times. It takes, well, they've been under order for, I don't know, 5-6 weeks now. We still haven't received them. They keep telling us, I think the next estimated ship date is sometime the week of the 24th next week. But we still don't have them. We're not critical. We can run off one UV bank if we had to, but it just wouldn't alternate. It would just run.
These lamps are part of the trip. They don't disinfect, they.
Well, it's actually under disinfection is what it's on, but it's not under sterilization.
There, that's it. There
Yeah.
makes a distinction. It's part of the treatment. It's this
Yeah.
UV stuff,
It's-
these lamps.
the final process before the water is discharged back out into the ocean.
Gotcha.
And
So it just
we
neutralizes
don't use a
bacteria.
chemical process, it's all ultraviolet.
Which goes back to the electric bill.
Yeah. Okay, so, we believe that it has been fixed now. We have put the generator back in automatic transfer mode for testing every Monday.
I can't remember, had you braced us for the cost of replacing the surge protector? Had you mentioned estimates or quotes or?
I had not got an estimate. They would not give us an estimate till it was troubleshot. That was one of the reasons we did the annual maintenance, which isn't due till June, sometime in June.
I just wondered if there was some numbers I could take off my back plate, but no, okay.
No, not yet. We have not received the lamps, which I told you, it says here week of April 24th. Blower 3 has failed, it's lost a seal, which it was losing quite a bit of oil. So I had to order a new one, we had no spare. And because we can't run on basin 1, we have to keep basin 3 operational. And blower 3, our understanding, only ran basin 3. Well, we found out through the O&Ms that we can run blower 2. So currently, we have 2 blowers for 3 basins, and you can't run 3 basins on 2 blowers. So as long as we currently stay operating 2 treatment basins, we should be fine. The new replacement blower showed up today. It wasn't the 20 weeks that they estimated. I don't know if there was an order cancellation at the factory, but they had one ready to go. So they got it timed and geared for us, each one spins different RPM, and they got it to us in a week. I mean, in a week.
And what's the installation on that? Does that happen easily?
Yeah, they actually pulled it all apart today. Brian and Tyler had to do some welding on the tank that had a crack in it, but they'll reassemble it. They could probably reassemble that thing in an hour and a half and make it operational. As long as they don't find anything else that they have to repair that's broke or anything, but it actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. So that will put us back up, we'll take that blower, we'll get the parts off we need, we'll send that one in for rebuilding. It's better to repair them like that than it is if they wipe out a rotor lobe or something inside. It takes out the whole blower, the case, the lobes, and then you're out another $7,800 to purchase another one. Generally, it's under $2,000 to overhaul.
So you fully understand the process, I'm sure, Jeff, but these are the blowers that inject the air into the basins that allow the bacteria
To oxidize.
to do its thing.
Yeah. That's what creates the oxidation of the treatment. Capital improvement projects, the portable generator, I have contacted West Tech. They are pushing the electrical engineers, but it's not done yet. So we don't know what size generator they're gonna spec for the Netarts pump station. And that's pretty much where it's at. I need that so I can go and do my backup work to find out if we can purchase 1 generator instead of 2. Because right now, the electrical engineers, they do caution on, they're cautious on when they spec something, but a generator's $50,000–$60,000 depending on the size. But if we had to buy a second one, it would be about the same cost as the one that we're already approved to buy for the Oceanside pump station. The district is required to have its ocean outfall inspected every 2 years, Advanced American. I sent them the okay that the board approved last month for the annual outfall inspection, so we're on their schedule. What will happen now is they will monitor the weather in the ocean, and when it's calm enough, generally before July, then it gets kind of windy and rough out there, so yeah. So our ocean outfall is actually a mile out to sea, and it's about 60 feet down under mean low tide.
Okay.
So if they do it under high tide, they have to have the oxygen, the pressure tanks and the decompression and all that, so they like to do it under low tide. Yeah.
Test our outfall, make sure the concentrations are clean.
So,
When it's done, you can see it on the map. Dan will point it out where it comes out.
so other than that, I don't have anything else to add to that. Most of the stuff we have now is pending.
So that same issue that we resolved earlier is under the operation summaries here.
Yes, and I've already highlighted it. I've already highlighted it to change it.
Thank you.
And then, of course, there's all the receipts that were, and quotes that were attached.
Next item is old business and new business. I imagine everybody got my email, that kind of discussed what the meeting, the results of the meeting with DEQ, and had a chance to look at it. I'll assume so. Does anybody have any other old or new business they wanna bring up? Who was it? Don't you have something, Dan? Correspondence, none that I know of, so I think we're ready for adjournment. Does anybody have anything else they wanna bring up? Jim, you have anything, or you good?
Oh, I just want to thank the new guys for participating. This is great. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Good questions. It takes the burden off. It's always good to have, people have a fresh look at things. So thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Everybody says aye. It's now 6:35.
So you can have the okay to.
That clock is.
So, like,